and welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Kenan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Doug, and we're here today to talk about cars. Nick has worn a Halloween costume. He's one of those wavy men outside dealerships.
Ready to sell some cars.
Now, we are recording this podcast on Halloween. It's not going up on Halloween, so it's not really going to land as well.
That's all right. Some people wear their costume the next day, get some extra mileage out of it.
This episode is brought to you by Turo, which is my favorite vehicle renting service. We'll get to that later. Today launches the Doug collection on the Turo homepage. We're going to talk about it later in the podcast. But first, we'll start with the news. Yes, Scout. Many years ago, Volkswagen bought the Scout brand name from back in the 70s, and they are going to use it to create electric SUVs. A lot of people say that these Scouts they just revealed look like Rivians, but I think that the Rivians look like the original Scouts. There's a little mind message for you.
I guess.
Here's the thing. The reason that this is an annoying news story, take a guess when these cars go on sale. You know about this yet?
No.
25.
27.
Yikes.
They announced this thing 3 years early.
This is...
You're getting a little hot.
Getting a little warm in this thing.
Maybe some regrets about wearing the Halloween costume today.
Just a few.
3 years early. This is one of the most annoying things that automakers do is announce products so far ahead of time that there's a ton of hype generated and then people either forget about it or don't care or the product is already outdated by the time it finally comes out. We're going to have 3 years to acclimate ourselves to this design, to think it's cool, to think it's special, and then finally it will come out. It is so stupid.
And by then, Rivian will have done another refresh that'll look very different, and these will look outdated.
And who knows what else will come out between now and then. I'm a big proponent. I've lived on the internet for 15 years. I'm a big proponent of you announce something the day you launch it.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. I mean, the NSX is a great example of one that got teased and then it came out and it was boring. The AMG Project One just still kind of not out. It's the same thing.
And the hype grows and then it'll never be as good.
You want hype action. You want to translate
Absolutely.
hype.
You want hype to turn into orders immediately.
Yep. Apple used to do the iPhone event on Tuesday. Friday you can pre-order.
Yep.
Boom.
Win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Am I right?
Yeah. The ID Buzz with another Volkswagen product, same thing. You know, the only company I can think of that did this okay was the Bronco. They teased that for like 3-4 years and it came out and it was still hot and we weren't tired of it. But I think they're going to run into some issues here.
I think the reason this happens is because there's an enormous amount of suppliers and people who are like in the know. Mm-hmm. And if you don't announce it early, you risk it leaking and then you can't control like the photos that come out or the way that it's talked about. And so you'd rather do that. And they can't trust all of the suppliers and all of the internal people to someone will leak it. They can't like literally wait until the day before it's on sale because by then it's already...
Yep.
But it's just so annoying. There's all this... I mean, by the way, to talk about it, it's got some amount of horsepower, which they haven't even announced yet, and it's going to do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and have a billion-pound feet truck. It'll be cool. But see you in 5 years, Scout.
Right.
Thanks for showing it to us. See you never.
So the moral of the story is just get a Rivian.
We'll be talking about the next election when these things finally come out. We'll be like, is Trump going to run again? All right, what's our next news story? Yes, a pickup truck has been revealed. Did you see this?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Not a looker.
This is the Kia Tasman. This will not be sold in the United States. People are like, I'm not sure if they'll sell it here. It's not built in North America, so they can't realistically sell it in North America because of the trade agreements. But it is heinous. However, don't you think if Toyota came out with this tomorrow and sold it here, people would be like, whoa.
TRD badge on
it. It's rugged. Yeah, throw a TRD badge on this thing, some all-terrains.
It reminds me of my 2-year-old's T-Rex Matchbox cars. Like, it's kind of like a T-Rex truck.
Yeah.
With
and
the
you
weird
know what?
eyes
That's
in it.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if this wasn't a Kia, and if this was being sold in America with a turbo diesel V6, people would be like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Is this an EV, I assume?
No, it's diesel. It's diesel.
It looks
only.
like the EV9 design language to me, so I assumed it was electric.
Kia and Hyundai have realized that, like, instead of making boring-looking cars, they should just make crazy-looking cars. And it has worked some of the time. And it has not worked less than that.
Yeah.
Like, it is mostly successful. The new Santa Fe, people actually talk about. Nobody's talked about the Hyundai Santa Fe since it came out.
Yeah,
true.
100%.
20 years ago. And now this maybe goes a little far, but it's also cool.
I think it's kind of like a sloth. Has its eyes kind of like on the side of its head.
Well,
you know?
and trucks are just trying to like one-up each other by being more boxy, more trucky. And you can only take it so far before your truck is too big to fit on the road. So this is a good way of making it macho and masculine without overdoing it.
It is an interesting concept how important the Asian markets are to these brands. They're going to make a truck and not even sell it in the United States, they'll land trucks. But Asia's got a big truck market. I wonder if they'll sell it in Latin America. That would be cool. We might see a couple. You know what I saw today on the way to work? A BYD Yuan.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Exciting.
You might be saying, what is that? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I
know
couldn't
BYD.
tell you if it was a crossover and SUV.
Build your dreams, you know?
And you know, on the Mexican market ones, it literally says, printed on the hatch, build your dreams, like written out.
Just to really drive that home.
Yeah. And then it said Yuan Plus. It wasn't just the regular Yuan that I saw.
How thrilling.
Anyway, Kia Tasman. All right, Nick, take it away. Tell us about your hero.
The 04 rich hoopty master, Tyler Hoover, got a Bugatti. And he had to trade in his Z8 for it and another car he hasn't disclosed yet. But this is next level. I mean, he comes from an SLR, Countach, an amazing collection. But, I mean, anyone that grew up in this era thinks the Vey is just the ultimate car. So super excited for him. It is currently broken. So it has no reverse gear. It, as you can see in the picture here, it's missing the whole dash piece to try to get to it. It's on back order. There's some other issues with it, but I assume that means you got a good deal on it, and it is so cool. I love the racing blue two-tone paint job.
It doesn't run, though. I mean, you know, that's an issue.
It runs.
Well, okay, but
it doesn't go
backwards.
backwards.
That's the same thing.
It's something to do with the shifter, though, and not like an actual mechanical problem. It's more the like interior trim and
I do like for the
thingy.
thumbnail that he happened to get in front of the heinous HRE wheels that it has, because it's not on stock ones anymore.
So this car was apparently originally owned by some kid with a rich parent who, you know, it worked out that he was able to get one, and the kid had a lot of problems with the car, and it's bounced around, and now Hoovie is having problems with the car before he's even taken delivery of the car.
The dealer's fixing it before it's sold. So they structured it into the deal that the dealer will repair it before it is delivered to him. So that's why all the shots were done at the dealership, is they're still waiting for the parts to come in to repair
Are
it.
you a little sad, as I am, that this is this? Like, when I saw this piece in a Veyron, I assumed there was this machined aluminum, like, tunnel behind it that it connected to. It's actually just held on with plastic fasteners like every other trashy car trim.
Yeah, it's a car.
It's $1 million car. I want machined aluminum tunnels.
Well, it's not, the whole car isn't hewn from one piece of aluminum.
If I'm spending $1 million for a car, I want it to be hewn from a piece of aluminum.
You know what makes me sad? Is Stradman has had one now, Hoovie's had one, Ed's had one. You don't have one. That makes me sad.
I'm not getting one.
You need to.
You need to understand.
You're going to lose your YouTube credentials if you don't get a Veyron now.
You don't understand what these cars cost to own, and neither do these guys. And by the way, they're
I think Stradman
so
found out.
Stradman found out because he maintained it properly, which is ironic because when he went to sell it, people took like value away from his car because Stradman owned it. When in reality, he like sent it to Bugatti dealers to get serviced.
Yep.
Ed straight up told me he's just going to ignore stuff unless it becomes a problem. And look at this. You think Hoovie in Wichita is going to find the Bugatti dealership? They got a Porsche dealership like last Thursday. I think that these guys don't understand what this car, to own it like I would want to own it, like Kenan would want to own it, not like you would want to own it. I don't think you understand what it costs to own.
You know, behind that beautiful brushed aluminum trim panel is a lot of like connectors, and they look like every other Volkswagen Audi group you ever worked on.
So probably.
Yeah, it should be fine.
No problem.
Should be fine.
I'll tell you this. Manny Koshman tried to sell his Veyron and bring a trailer. Didn't sell. And he posted his service records. And I have never seen anything like it before in my life, including he did a tire change at Bugatti of Newport Beach. Bugatti of Newport Beach, this is the wealthiest area in America, Newport Beach, Newport Coast, that area where Manny lives. Bugatti of Newport Beach can't do a tire change. They had to send the car to Bugatti of Los Angeles to do a tire change, which was like $50,000. And I spoke to Ed, and Ed told me to this day there's only 2 places in the world that are capable of doing a tire change on a Veyron. Bugatti of Los Angeles and the factory, which is in France/Germany.
Which is why it's on aftermarket wheels, is that's the only way to like sustainably have tires and wheels you don't have to replace.
On a Vey.
Yes, right, because every third tire change, the wheels have to be replaced, is my understanding.
Think about that.
It's
This car is on a level of impossible to own that is Truly, honestly, difficult to describe to people.
Yeah.
Coachman also did like an annual, and it was like an oil change. It was like $30,000. I'm not screwing with you. It was wild. When I saw that, I've always kind of wanted a Veyron. When I saw that, I'm never on this car. Ever.
Hoovie did mention that 30,000. He's going to have another video where he goes into the ownership cost. So I think it'll be a really fun series to watch in terms of just like how badly he gets destroyed on maintenance.
I think it just further drives home the point that like the Chiron, what Bugatti realized, like okay, people can't. It was like, and so if you want one to drive, actually the Chiron.
Bugatti, well, but the problem is the Chirons are $3 million. The Bugatti realized though they got dragged for the cost of ownership of this car, and as a result, these cars have not done well on the used market. A P1 doubled, the 918s doubled, the LaFerraris tripled. This car is like less than retail still, and it's because this reputation exists with bad to own. But you know what the thing is? I was thinking. We all know, you and me, because we've had a bunch of these, mid-2000s Volkswagen Audi products were all terrible, right? They all had reliability issues and this and that. This is like the final boss. Imagine if you went, like we all know the Bentleys are bad. So the Audis are bad. Like the S4s, they have problems. And the Bentleys are bad, right? That's really bad. Then this is like the absolute worst Volkswagen Audi mid-2000s car you could get. It's like take all of that unreliability and put it in $1 million car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just make it as complicated as possible. Let's throw 4 turbos on it and make it a W16 for some reason.
Right, and just roll that dice.
I do have to say, though, I do wonder if that actually increases the value in the long run. That the story and the lore of how difficult it is and how only enthusiasts like really grasp to it will like weed out all the like the losers basically and make it
McLaren
so that McLaren
F1 famously is as difficult to own as this car.
Yeah, and you need a gateway computer with MS-DOS on it, right? Like or whatever the thing is.
More or less, that's exactly accurate.
You unlock the ECUs by playing Tetris.
So anyway, good luck to Hoovie. He's obviously insane. I don't know what he paid for the car, but he's a crazy person, and I'm excited to see it all go. What is our final news story of the day?
Yes. The Porsche 992.2 Carrera T has been announced. Now, the Carrera T has always been like the stripped-out version of the 911. You won't be interested in this because you hate all Porsches, except for your Cayenne.
But the T is the enthusiast spec, so if I were to be interested in one, it's the good deal one that's also geared towards enthusiats.
In theory, but of course you will still hate this car because there are a lot of pedantic little details.
I will buy it in 15 years for 45 grand.
But the big details that matter. So it retains the 3-liter twin turbocharged flat six that's found in the normal base car, but which is 388 horsepower and 332 foot-pounds of torque. Plenty for like an enthusiast to use. The critical thing though is available with a 6-speed manual transmission only. No PDK option, and not a 7-speed manual, a 6-speed manual transmission.
It is pedantic.
It is pedantic.
And there's a cab that's also manual.
They're also making a cab, yes. And of course, it has a walnut shift knob, to kind of harken back to the 917, although I know that was Beechwood, and you're used to using one yourself. But I think the other big thing that Porsche announced that's really important is that they're going to continue to develop gasoline engines. It's not going to be all electric, which is a very big deal.
It's not over.
It's not over.
No, I actually think this is amazing. Remember like the B7 RS4, a lot of cars used to come out manual only for the enthusiasts. So the fact that they're not even giving you the option is just like, gives it so much credibility in my book.
Are there still manual only cars?
No.
The Focus ST was, the Focus RS was, the Fiesta ST were they're
those
gone.
went out of production in 2018.
Yeah. There's probably one or two out there that you're not thinking of.
I don't think so. There are a handful of cars that are available with manual transmissions.
But remember the 911R came out and it was like $1 million to buy one because I thought it was going to be the last manual. That was like 27 years ago.
Well, that car is critical because it proved, and it's particularly when those cars sold later, there was a market for it. And I think if that car hadn't, that's one of the most important Porsches I think ever to come out because it proved that they could sell manual transmissions.
Which just blows me away to this day why Ferrari doesn't follow suit and give us the manual car that we want.
One wonders if they will put a click-clack.
You know what is manual only? Acura. Makes the Integra Type S is manual only. Boom! Take that. Okay, our next topic of conversation today, we want to discuss my Turo favorite finds. So Turo calls us the other day and they say, hey, you want to put together this favorites list of all the favorite cars that are on Turo. And so we started looking. And there is an unbelievable amount of crazy stuff, let's say stuff, on Turo that people can rent. And I'm not just saying there's some crazy stuff on Turo. I mean, people have some really unusual automobiles on Turo, which we're going to discuss shortly. By the way, but before I do that, I want to give a little bit of a shout out. I just rented a Turo this week. I was in Vancouver, Canada. Mm-hmm. King Yin, Lexus NX, killer. All right.
Okay, all right.
Let's talk through some of my Turo favorites. I found all these Turo cars that that you can rent on Turo, and there's some absolutely wild ones.
308 GTS. Really?
Pull up that 308 GTS.
I really want.
Where is this thing?
This must be
Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah, LA.
So you can go into LA, you could fly into LAX,
Dude.
and you could pop into a 308 GTS.
That is
Open top,
crazy.
red Ferrari. That's pretty great.
4.98 stars.
Wow. Now, of course, it is an I, so
It's an I?
Yes, it's a 2-valve fuel-injected car, so it ain't gonna be quick, but you're click-clacking in a vintage Ferrari.
I wonder if the LA market has a lot of these cars particularly exciting because people rent them for like video shoots and stuff like that.
I suspect, yeah, that's probably why.
And film. But look at this. You could literally land at LAX, and instead of getting into a Hyundai Accent,
You can do
Yeah.
308.
you could be driving around in a 308 GTS. People have done 91 trips.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
ask you a
wild.
question. You got a 308. Is the first thought you have, hey, I want to rent this thing out on Turo?
I think it would be the last thought I
Nick, you want to rent your car on Turo?
I have applied to be a host on Turo. However, in true Maserati fashion, there's a safety recall that was never done 7 years ago. And so my car failed to meet the standards of Turo. I found this out only after driving my kids around 1,500 miles to everywhere I could think of. So let's hope I don't die.
So a couple things. Are you going to do the safety recall?
Okay, you would think Maserati dealers were not in good shape right now, and you would be 100% right. The dealership closest to us, I've tried to call them 5 times. I've left 2 voicemails. At one point, I was speaking to someone, and they just hung up on me. Another time, they go, "What's your VIN?" And I go, "So-and-so-so." Then they transfer me to someone else's voicemail. So I end up, I have another thread going with Maserati North America, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this dealership, and I won't name them, but they seem to really not want to help here. And they're like, sorry to hear that, try another one. Like, that's their solution. So I don't know if I can even get the recall done, because Maserati's like, we don't associate with you anymore.
It is your grand dream to put this car on Turo.
I know.
That's like been your dream since the day you bought it.
Yeah, he's like froth. He just like really wants to just will this into existence.
My neighbor has a yellow Cybertruck on Turo, and I can't let him be the king of Turo in my neighborhood, right? Like it's like a turf war. So my car would be way cooler.
What
but
is the primary reason that you want to rent out your Maserati
The
on
primary
Turo?
reason is I paid 14 for the car. I'm really in the car like 19.
Right.
But I want to say that I own the car for free.
You
So
think
if
you
I
get
can-
$19,000 in Turo rentals?
I would only need to make 5 to close the delta there. I think it'll also sell for way more than I paid for it on Cars and Bids because it's a great platform.
Nice, thank you.
However,
Yeah.
I need to close that gap a little bit because I think that's maybe too optimistic. So if I can get like $1,000 or $2,000, like that should do it.
So you think you just want to rent it out a couple
Yeah.
times?
Well, I also want to get as many miles on the car to prove that it's reliable. So if someone can go drive the crap out of it, I'll do unlimited miles, like drive it 1,000 miles, take it to Maryland.
Hey man, you can just lend it to one of us. We'll drive it
I'm not
1,000
going to
miles.
drive. I have no interest in driving that
No
car.
one ever wants to drive my cars.
I would drive it. I've driven the Focus.
You
I
don't
came
wanna
home-
drive that car?
That's the one you chose.
Well, no, that's not. I've driven the Mercy before that.
And then you're like, oh, the airbox is broken and the HID
I was
is blank.
right.
And
That
Well,
is
no.
something that happens when you
It
lend
leaks
Kevin one of
oil.
your cars. He comes back and he's like,
Yeah.
"These 9 things are a problem." I did that once. And he came back and he said that, and I drove the car. It drove fine to me.
no,
instead of-
yeah, you didn't go. Yeah, I drove that car over 50 miles an hour, and man, it was terrifying.
Good way to save money. Skip the PPI and just have Kenan drive it.
And have him
fine.
smell it. And have him smell it.
I would love to hear your PPI on this 308.
Give me
because
some
I think,
other Turo cars that are cool. Go
That's
back
a
to the
good
thing.
one. That's a
Look at
good
this.
one.
Look at this. There's
Oh,
a
Esprit.
Lotus
Wow.
Esprit. Where is this? Auburn, Washington. You can go to Seattle.
For $375 a day, that feels like a bargain.
It does.
$375 a day to rent a Lotus Esprit.
You're having a Giugiaro-designed mid-engine sports car.
You ever driven an Esprit? Dude,
Only the V8.
I went to Vancouver and I rented King Yin's Lexus NX. I should have flown into Seattle,
driven-
rented the Lotus Esprit, driven over the border. That wouldn't have been sketchy. Hey, I'm in a rented Lotus Esprit, Mr. Border Agent.
You have to imagine for some of these cars, $400 a day is about the ownership cost.
Well, but isn't that the fun of this experience?
Yeah,
You get
totally.
the opportunity to drive around in this thing and not have to worry about any of that trash.
You know, and as a host, I would actually feel comfortable. The type of person who'd pick an Esprit
Yeah.
is not going to like destroy
That's
it,
the
right?
thing.
They're an enthusiast.
I
They'll
completely
appreciate it.
agree. That's the thing. You were like that. The last thing I would think about is renting a 308. Like, no, like, big baller coming into LAX who wants to like show off is going to rent a 308 GTSI.
An enthusiast is, yeah,
It's going to
absolutely.
be rented by someone who really is into the cars.
Yeah, this is
Imagine
so
cruising
cool.
around Seattle and it's free. It's raining. You got the glass panel above you.
Got the lights popped up.
Lights are popping up most of the time.
Maybe they break up like that. Who knows? It'd
At
be an
least
adventure.
one of them probably will pop up.
2 trips with Paul. This is quite a
But
car.
Paul's got 40. Click on Paul. What else is Paul?
47 trips.
Oh, 47 trips.
He's got other cars. That's why he has
2 trips
47
with the Lotus.
Let's see what else he's got. Paul.
Oh, wow,
Paul's
he's got
killing it.
and a GT3 RS.
He's got a
Wow.
GT3 RS,
What
a
a
Lotus
stable.
Esprit, and an air-cooled 911,
Man,
all on Turo.
This is a man of great taste.
I'll tell you something. For $375 a day, you could have the 911 or the Esprit. I'm taking the Esprit all day long.
100%.
Do you know unofficially Stradman level tax advice here? If it's on Turo, can you write off the car as a business expense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that these people set up LLCs
Right.
to own these cars, and then they probably do write off. They probably have to have the car being run like realistically though. You can't just like, oh, it's for rent,
Right.
but no one ever rents it.
No, I think there's a move here. I like this.
But Paul here is legitimately renting these
I mean, yeah,
automobiles.
31 trips
Yeah.
on that 911. That's pretty good.
31 trips. That's wild. People are really actually landing at Seattle and renting a 911.
I mean, I would next time I'm up there. This
Yeah.
is great. This
But
is so
wouldn't you
cool.
rather have the Esprit?
I'd rather have the Esprit, yeah. Well, depends. If I need to get where I'm going, maybe not. But pretty cool.
I got to tell you about Turo. One of the things that appeals to me, actually the primary thing that appeals to me, to be totally honest, is that the people are always there. Have you ever done Turo?
Yeah, twice. Really great experience.
I've done it
Yeah.
like 77 times. They told me because they looked at my
Wow.
profile and they were like, "You've used it 77
Do you
times."
have a 5-star rating?
Yeah, or close.
I got a perfect 5. I want to know. I want to know what people dinged you on.
I don't know what my rating is, but I will say
Probably 3.
the King Yin when I was in Vancouver, I landed at midnight. And I walk out, and instead of getting on the rental car shuttle and taking the rental car shuttle to a faraway location where who knows what's going to happen, and then standing in line for a weekend, he's just there. And you know what he does? He gives me the key, and then I just drive away. And it seems like it should be illegal, but it's not.
Both of mine, they parked it in short-term parking,
Yeah.
left the key in the lockbox.
That's the other one
and that was
works
great too.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with either one.
We went 50-50 between a Turo and a regular rental car when we went to Hawaii as a family. And I was like, oh, what if the guy doesn't show up from Turo? We go to Enterprise or whatever it was. We waited 3 hours in a parking garage for them to pull around a car as all these like angry families are like, we should have done Turo.
It
would have been better.
so long. The rental car thing takes
Yeah, it's
so
awful.
long. It is such a terrible process. When I was a kid, you'd go right into the terminal and you'd walk up to the rental car booth and they'd give you the car and it was in the garage. But they've now needed to maximize the garage for like regular people parking. And so the rental cars are always off-site and it is a complete disaster.
Wasn't that the Seinfeld bit of like, oh, I have a reservation. Isn't that what that's for?
Anybody can just take them.
That's the other thing. You're booking a car that you know about. Now, the
Yeah.
thing about the people not showing up, 77 trips. One time the dude didn't show up, and it's because the car got hit the night before.
Yeah.
Which, it happens. But I try to choose people who have pretty good reviews.
Yeah.
And then it basically always, they call out if you're like
All-star
an
host.
all-star
Yeah.
host.
It's
And
no
I-
different than Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I do that without even thinking about it. And based on 2 good experiences on Turo, like I'm not even going to think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a fantastic situation. People complain sometimes the cars are not maintained as perfectly. I mean, I have that problem with rental cars.
Right.
The hosts are also very motivated. Like if you tell them there's an issue, like they're super responsive. They want that 5-star review.
Some of these guys, this is the other interesting thing about Turo. Some of these guys, this is like their thing.
Yeah.
This is like what they do. There are guys on Turo who have like 47 cars and it's
Yeah.
their entire job.
Yeah, no, the C8 I rented for our good friend Sam's wedding, I think he had 4 other cars and he was a mortgage broker or something, and you knew mortgages were really slow. This was like 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And like that was his primary source of income, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, every time I do one that the dude has several cars, I look at it. He's got like, I did one in Atlanta a couple weeks ago. The dude had 1,000 trips.
Wow.
And that guy had like a thing set up with an offsite parking lot, and I really didn't want to do that, so I told him I'd give him $50 if he just brought the car to the airport. And he did.
Nice.
It was great.
That's fantastic.
I like that you can negotiate
That's the other
pickup.
thing. I
Yeah.
can just send him some. Okay, look at this.
What is that?
Let me bring up your whole list here. We'll come to that.
Wait, go.
An Alpine?
No, there's some
How
great
are these
ones.
cars
Click on
even
this
here?
Is it
because
Europe?
they're
What
go in
is
Europe.
this?
They're in France too, and in the UK.
Oh,
Oui, oui.
look at that.
This thing.
What?
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour,
This
I'd
looks
like
like
to
it's-
take a Honda out for a weekend. That would be nice. Go down to the restaurant. C'est fantastique.
I know in France they probably allow you to smoke in the cars.
Wait, what's right-hand drive? So this would be
Well, this is in the UK, but this is a Honda E.
That's cool.
You ever seen one?
Wow.
No, never heard of it.
I saw one in Copenhagen. I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world.
Yeah, it looks like a concept car.
It does look like a concept car. There it is next to a Nissan Juke, proving that it exists in reality, too.
Need that. Definitely
Look
need
at
that.
this. It's so cool.
Wow, this is wild.
I wish that Turo was a little bit more available in
There's
Europe.
a
That's one of my big things.
Person on the,
There's a guy there. What's he saying?
I don't know, 1650.
Go back. There's another great European one. Look at that.
Oh, Alpine. Oh, that's so cool. That A110. Wow, it looks tiny in that picture.
These are so cool. You could just rent one. You could just pull up in Europe and just have yourself an A110.
You know, the other
That's
great
so
use
cool.
case for Turo besides travel is you're thinking of buying a car
Yep.
and you want some seat time. Like a few friends have hit me up that are like kind of car people. I'm like, just go rent one, even if it's $1,000 for the weekend. Like, do it, and you'll know if you like the car. Is the Carrera S going to have enough power? Do you need the T or the base? Like, you can answer all these questions in a real way instead of like trying to go to a dealership.
Totally.
and-
It really gives you an opportunity to actually drive, and you know what car you're getting as opposed to Enterprise where you show up and it's like a minivan or similar.
Wow.
Look at this.
Deep French.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Actual French.
Yeah, they're in France. And
Hey, it says it's sublime. I can read that.
Nice, Nick.
you could rent an A110. I think that one of the great drawbacks of life, this is some deep, this is a deep cut. One of the great drawbacks of life is that it is very difficult to drive a fun car in Europe if you're not a European.
Yes.
Because all the European rental car agencies rent normal European cars, which most Americans who haven't spent a lot of time in Europe don't realize are Volkswagen Golfs with a 0.7 liter two-stroke with 46 horsepower. I'll never forget when I first went to Germany and I thought I'd see Porsches all over the Autobahn and AMG Mercedes passing people everywhere. And you land and it's just like Volkswagen Polo, Volkswagen Lupo, Volkswagen Polo.
Small, cheap. They want to say, one mirror because the other one was optional. And they could save money.
No AC.
No AC.
No radio.
Yeah, that's-
Transparent windows were an option. 12-inch wheels.
Meanwhile, you as a tourist can show up on an Alpine A110.
Right. But so I've always had this problem when I go to Europe and I get there and I want to rent the coolest car you got. And it's like, all right, we have a BMW 118D and it's an automatic with hubcaps.
Yep,
Here you go,
sit
sir.
up and beg. Yeah,
It's like great.
But instead, you could be. Wow, yeah, it really does transform that experience.
That's a very relatable deep cut that a lot of us struggle with. Thank you.
I'm not wrong. If you go to Europe as an
not rude.
American car enthusiast, you want to drive. Like a lot of the time in Europe, these are some very special driving roads.
Yep.
It's a different driving experience. You could go on the de-restricted Autobahn, which Kenan will be doing soon. Did you know that?
Yeah,
No.
July, yeah,
Wow.
going for a friend's wedding. And I'm going to borrow a friend's E39 M5. So I'm going to finally get to drive
amazing.
my own car.
Maybe
on the
you
Autobahn.
Speaking
Hop
of
on the
Turo in Europe, we got Kenan a Turo gift card for his birthday.
I have not used yet.
And he has not used it yet, but I'm hoping that he can use that to sample either a Viper or whatever car's next. So
Well, thank you. I will look for Vipers on
Yes.
Turo and see if I find
I
one.
really
but-
just want you to rent a car that's fast enough to keep up with the Murcielago for a weekend cruise.
Oh, give me a break. Yeah, you have to slow down because your oil overheats. I mean, not like
That
you
only
work-
happened once.
And to be honest with you, I don't want to keep up with you because that means being deafened by your car the entire time anyway.
Yeah.
It would definitely happen every time if you took the car out every time.
But there's so many cars. I mean,
Yeah.
356. This is the way to experience a 356. It's not a lot of money to go slow.
Yeah.
You don't have to own it. It's the best part.
Kenan, go back. There you go, Saab 94X.
Wow.
That
Interesting.
is
What a
an
quirky
adult
car.
42
automobile.
American dollars a
in
day.
Denver. $42 a day in Denver. You could be driving a Saab 94X.
You know those Lucid Airs that you also had on your list
Great
are
pictures.
fairly affordable for what you can rent them for. Like
What
it's
are they, what
like
are
a
they
normal
rent for?
car.
Go back to that. I had a Lucid Air. What was it?
I almost rented one last time I was in Palm Beach because it was like the same price as like a
200 a day.
Chevy
but
Lumina.
this is a dream edition. This was the very best
Yeah.
Lucid Air that possibly
and that's
existed.
$200 a day, which is not a like
It's
crazy
not a
amount.
lot of money. What rental cars these days rent for money. Where is this located? Austin? Damn.
Yeah.
You go into Austin to do some tech bro stuff as you do.
Yeah.
You drive around on a Lucid Air. People think you're the tech bro.
You drive that around, you can sell some online courses for $99.
How many
hang out with
people-
Wes Watson.
How many people do you How many people do you think rent Turos to like front? Like you and me use
Oh.
it to travel. I only do it when I travel.
Yeah.
I never rent it at home. But how many people do you think do it to like in their location to like
Totally.
go on a date or whatever?
I would imagine it's about 5% of the market cap of Turo.
Is people doing that?
People flexing, especially in LA. You have to think a lot of influencers and creators are saying, "Oh, sign up for my course," and then they're in front of the Lambo.
That's the thing. You can never be sure. We did this photo shoot with Turo because they're sponsoring this and a couple other things. We did this photo shoot with a GT3 that's available to rent in San Diego. In fact, it's on my little favorites list. And it's that one, the blue one.
Yeah.
And a week before we did the photo shoot, I was driving on the 8, and I got up behind it. I was like, ooh, this guy's got a GT3. Nope. He rented it for the day.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, if you're passing it off on your own, maybe.
That's different. But
otherwise, why not rent? Especially if you work from home,
Yeah, work from home, rent a 348 Spider, have
if you had a $1,000 a month car payment, instead of doing that, you could rent a cool car for a couple days, a weekend or two, a month, and it would net out even.
Is there anything else on here that's especially exciting? Keep going. Go down.
The 4x4 squared is pretty wild.
You know what, Kenan? Somebody had a 70 series Land Cruiser on here, but I think they pulled it off. I favored it initially, and I think they pulled it off.
God,
keep
I'd
going,
love
57 Thunderbird, that would be pretty
neat.
baller.
Yep.
NSX, new NSX.
Grand Wagoneer?
Oh, Nick, right up Nick's alley.
Nick!
I need to rent that.
Corniche too.
This is also in LA.
Beautiful,
I think.
cream on cream.
Cream on cream.
Yeah, that is cool because now you're not flexing as a Lambo new money wealth.
Yeah.
You're flexing as old money.
And
wealth.
also, like we've said, but especially in this case, this is how you want to drive a Corniche.
Yes.
Rented by the day.
And if something goes wrong, someone comes and takes it away, and you don't have to be concerned.
Right. Honestly, you get 3-4 days out of this car, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, that's about all you're gonna
You're
get.
like, well, that's more
You
than
can
I
leave the mineral oil on someone else's driveway.
Click on quality rentals. See what else there are.
Rentals with a Z.
Rentals with a Z. See what else they're rolling.
Yeah, let's see what other quality rentals
Torrents.
they have.
They got a bunch of trips.
Let's see.
Scroll down.
Yeah, you do see some
Not
It
much.
doesn't show the cars.
actual businesses on here.
All right, go back. The reason I asked that, go back to the main. Okay, scroll down.
Gallardo.
STO is pretty cool.
Oh,
This is a 600
STO.
SL. This is a V12 car.
Oh wow! Look, all of three of Paul's cars made your list.
Paul was legit.
Paul
91
was
Grand
le-
Wagoneer.
Let's go ahead
But
and see that.
one thing I discovered while I was doing this, keep scrolling. Oh, RS4
Oh,
cab.
RS4
Yeah,
cab.
wow.
That's in DC, by the way.
Oh,
Coulda
that could've
had
been me.
that.
Citroen XM, but that's in France. GR Yaris is in Europe.
Keeping all those in mind. Wow.
Keep going, keep going. Okay, so
Wow, Maybach.
Maybach GLS, 280 SL. There's
Came in GT4.
The reason I bring this up, I discovered while I was doing the Turo thing, this list, that you can sort Turos by anywhere, anytime. You don't need to have a date or a time in mind.
How do you do that?
If you go on Turo.com right now,
Okay.
and then you can change these to any time. So at the date, you can just click clear. Just clear it entirely.
That helps
And
so
then
much.
now click on the magnifying glass. You have a where is not filled in, right?
Yep, not where
and
is
now
not
you just have the whole world. I think actually you may have to go back to where here and take it
Oh,
away.
and just clear out San Diego. And,
Anywhere. You click on anywhere.
oh,
Wow.
anywhere. Okay.
And now you can see whatever it is you want and sort however you want,
All right, now look
including
up-
by make.
Ask Park Owl. We will do a trip to anywhere that has an Ask Park Owl for sale. Or
Make
rent.
Acura. Let's see. What make do you want to see? DeLorean? Are there any DeLoreans?
Oh yeah, there's
Oh, there's
DeLoreans.
gotta be.
Doesn't look like there are any right now. Ferraris.
Click on age, change
Yeah,
age to
increase your
30
age,
plus.
youngin.
Upper right there.
Yes, forgot.
I also like to sort by most
No,
expensive.
make it like 50. Make it
Whenever
hard
I go somewhere, then you just work your way down to the number where you feel comfortable.
Here's an interesting fact that I don't think a lot of people know. Many years ago, I did ads for Turo, as we're doing right now. And for some reason, I agreed to be paid in Turo credit. And by the end of the ad, it was based on how many people clicked through. And by the end of my advertising for them, I had accumulated 20,000 Turo bucks. It would have been a lot nicer to have it in cash, but it had it in Turo credit. And I used that Turo credit up until like 2 weeks ago. I rented a car
Amazing.
2 weeks ago that was finally the end of my Turo credit. And I would just, when I would go somewhere, I would just do that. Sort by highest price and then be like, yup, because it was free. And people would be so excited that I had chosen their G-Wagon or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah. But really, I wasn't paying anything for it.
I also think that's a good hosting strategy. If you had that 308 and you didn't really want to rent it a ton, charge enough that it'll scare away most people, like the flexers. And it's only the people who really want it and who are rich enough to afford it.
Right.
And
Or
then
production companies.
Maybe you only get a couple rentals a month or a year, but that's fine.
Right.
You're getting the right kind of rentals.
Right.
So,
Right. It's like how you would want to list your house on Airbnb if someone would pay you $3,000 a night.
yeah, for sure. Anyone can stay. I'll do 2,500.
2250.
Yeah, deal.
Do you still have that tab open?
Yes, I do. So I was just looking through Ferraris. Amazing the number of Californias, which
There's
makes sense.
a lot of Calis. There's a lot of Portofinos.
Portofinos.
There's 488s and 458s. Quite a few of those.
Yeah, also makes a lot of sense.
But there's some older ones too.
FF. Oh,
Wow.
dang.
Yeah. And it's like purple.
Yeah, but that's a
That's
wrap.
sick.
You want to rent a purple FF?
I do.
Purple
Desperately.
FF on black wheels with a wrap and some.
Where do I have to travel
would
to
be
make that
southern
happen?
state. That would be really cool,
In
the
California.
Millipetus?
Yeah,
Where is that? That's like Napa, right?
Yeah, I think that is.
gotta be. If you haven't heard of it, probably.
488 Pista.
Pista,
In Fort
wow.
Lauderdale. Damn, that is a
Fort
lot.
Lauderdale. So when I rented a Continental GT, it was in Fort Lauderdale. There were some prime pickings there, and it's competitive enough that the prices were pretty decent. And I think also Fort Lauderdale, Miami has that kind of.
It is wild
clientele.
how many nice cars there.
Yeah.
When I did Miami, I did a C8 right when the C8 came out when I was in Miami. It was Palm Beach Airport, I think, and it was wild. How
Yeah.
much stuff there was, like nice. Stuff
I took
there
that
was.
Continental GT. That was a wonderful car for South Florida, and I took it to Curated. And I felt like, yes, like I'm playing the part here. Like I look like I actually belong.
You got to assume the people at Curated though just assume that every nice car that rolls up is a rental.
Probably. But
In Miami too, Turo is a thing, but like there's all sorts of random high-end rental companies. Like Miami is the land of looking rich and you're not.
Yeah.
But a Pista is cool.
Pista
you rent a
is
Pista
cool.
and you're a legit dude. How
Love
much
the-
does this car cost?
A lot.
Not cheap.
Yeah, it ain't.
As it should be.
ain't cheap.
And it should be expensive. Yeah, 700 horsepower.
Pretty limited. And then $10.61 per mile if you go over 450.
450 in what, 3 days of travel?
Although admittedly, driving in Florida, you're just using this car to flex. There's nowhere entertaining to drive this car.
It would be an odd decision to rent this because
Yeah, this car is the
just rent a
extreme
458.
handling.
It looks the same.
You accomplish the same
The
goal.
same goal, right.
Well, if you have to
430s
430 on challenge
there
wheels.
were a couple of nice 430s when I looked, yeah.
Wow, yeah. This is in LA.
Yeah, LA's got some good stuff too.
Yeah.
And LA has definitely more like connoisseur cars than Miami did. All right, Kenan, we want you to get a Viper. Could you rent yourself a Viper?
Well, let's find out. Let's see if we can find any Vipers. I
The
guess.
brand is Dodge.
Yeah, thank you. I do recall. Or SRT in some cases.
In some cases, it is SRT.
All right, and then we're gonna go for scroll way down for Viper. What is this car?
Oh,
Ooh,
there is an
Phoenix.
early Viper. No, you clicked on the top one. There you go.
Oh, a 9. Yeah, this is an early. Where
An
is
early
This?
Viper, Palmetto, Florida.
Florida.
This is you.
Wow. Where's Palmetto, Florida?
93
knows?
too.
Well, if
Wow.
I'm
Go
gonna,
there.
I'm gonna be there for. I'm gonna be in Florida for Amelia Island. This would be pretty great to show up in. I'll admit that the traffic in Amelia Island would suck in this.
No,
Look
it'd
at
be
that.
fun. You'd be
Look
good.
at that 8
8
miles to
per
the gallon.
It's like the Tampa, Bradenton area.
It could be a long drive to Amelia
Unleash
from there.
the legend.
Yeah, great copy.
Yep, born to stand out.
Dude, this is Kenan. You ought to do this. It is on the wrong side of Florida from Amelia, but that will only make it
Distance
better.
included 600 miles.
Well, but for how long is your trip? Your trip is 3 days, so it's probably 200 miles a day.
They're calling your bluff there. They know you're not. No one wants to be in a
You could
Gen
have-
1 Viper for 600
You could
miles.
put unlimited
in
distance,
3 days.
and it would be totally fine. What was the other Viper? It was an 03?
Yeah, the other one's an SRT10
That's a cool
in
car,
Phoenix.
too, in Phoenix. You know what else you should check out is Aston Martin, because there's probably
Ooh,
Vantages.
yeah.
I think there were a bunch of Vantages when I looked.
Let's just take a look at all of them. Well,
Speaking
no,
of which,
there's a
Filippo,
lot.
who's not here and is looking at a 911, maybe he needs to figure out if the base versus S is enough power.
There was this, you clicked
So
on new
many.
Vantages, a ton of new Vantages, but V8,
V8
Vantage was
Vantage.
also an option, and that was available too. I wonder if there's an old Vanquish.
Oh, that would be. Yeah.
Ton of old Vantages.
Oh, look at this. Yeah, I think this is in
Gorgeous.
Cal. I think
San
we
Bruno.
San Bruno's Bay.
briefly looked at this one for Car Week this year, but they rented it to somebody.
See if there's an old Vanquish.
Wonder how many Car
So
Week
curious.
cars are
I'm
Old
not-
Vanquish.
Turoed.
No,
No,
just
of
new
course
one.
it's the newer
But that's
one.
a cool car too. Where's Oxon Hill? Is this in the UK? Maryland.
Maryland.
Huh.
Wow, that is such a breathtakingly beautiful.
You could have rented this. You were just in DC.
That would have been cool.
Okay, we've looked at Turo cars enough. You can check out my Turo favorites by clicking the link in the description below to see all the cars I've selected. But next, we are going to talk about cars. And I want to start with the pronunciation of Acura.
Yes.
Last week on the pod, I said Acura instead of Acura. And people were angry in the comments, like they thought I thought it was Acura, right? But you know what I was thinking? It's a made-up word. They said it's Acura. I'm saying it's Acura. I'm going to take it back.
This is one of Doug's hobbies people don't know about. Is he loves mispronouncing and misspelling words intentionally.
Just to upset people.
Yeah, he loves doing this.
One of my favorite things to do in a text message is when it's supposed to be there, T-H-E-R-E, I will say there, T-H-E-I-R, and then correct myself to T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. And boy, do people get mad. But Acura, they faked the word. I'm going to fake the word too.
You can have it. I'm going to say Acura like everybody else.
Ah, nice Acura TL.
At least you're not saying Gallardo.
Like anyone you know, Nick?
Yeah, no names mentioned.
Okay. Nick, tell us about the manual swap Murcielago situation.
Well, I talked about it, I don't know, a month ago when I was last on here.
Yep.
And EAG crept into my DMs and offered me to be one of the first
Manual swap
580s. And
580.
we had some chats. Well, I can't call it a pre-LP. That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
We call it a base model.
Ooh, shots fired. And we called it an Acura, but what are you going to do about that?
So what are you going to do? Are you going to do it?
So I got the details.
First off, what does it cost?
45 is what they quoted, labor included. Which
Everything.
Wasn't that expensive, but they found a way to do it engine in. Now, it's not, there are some things that they have to sacrifice to make it engine in that wouldn't make it completely OEM. The throw-out bearing, I think it is, stays the same. It's the E-gear part instead of the manual part. A few other things like that. The fluid doesn't get changed. They're supposed to have their first customer car at SEMA. So I said, let's see how that goes. It's actually another influencer. His name is Jack Ultramotive. Got a great YouTube channel, but I'm going to see how that goes. But then Machina, which is the other half of EAG that split off, also has at least one customer car done and is planning on another one. I'm in chats with them. They are going to do it engine out and allegedly in a better way. A third company in Poland also posted some videos. And then a fourth company that asked not to be named also says that they're nearing completion. So I think by the end of the year, there could be anywhere from 0 to 4 options
I'm going to just stop you and go way back.
First, it's pronounced Machina, not Machina.
Whatever.
Second,
Acura.
Okay. A company that asks not to be named, if they're trying to sell these things, wouldn't they want to be named?
Well, it's not ready yet, so they
not done.
They want to tip off.
A company in Poland. Also, I'm a little anxious about the engine out, engine in distinction. First off, removing the engine from that car is a pretty serious game.
Yes.
So
Trans comes out at the same time. It's like the Countach. It's crazy.
So if someone found a way to do it engine in and someone found a way to do it engine out, that's a pretty big discrepancy.
Right.
Does that make you nervous?
It does. Well, I think you got to see the feel of it. There's also little things that are different, like the E-gear where that circle is that you click the buttons, and then the shifter are like 6 inches apart. Like it's a different placement of the shifter.
Oh, you're kidding.
For a manual. So like, do you re-gear
Wait,
the entire center
manual
console?
Mercies?
Yeah, it's only like 6 inches or maybe a little less.
you probably have to, because I'd imagine there must be a hole that it's mounted at. There must be
Yeah,
some
so there's a lot of
Pull this up. The interior. Go to Cars and Bids. We sold that black one. And pull up Murcielago.
There's a black one for sale.
We
So
have one
that's
for
an
sale.
E-gear.
Okay, pull that up, and then go and pull up.
that circle thing that you can see
Okay,
blurry
now pull
there.
up open another tab, and then pull up that black one that we sold that was a manual that I drove.
Yeah, the whole center console is just slightly
one.
different.
This one, right?
Okay,
This one is-
so click on that. Go back to the other
Oh,
one.
he's right.
Is it different?
Look
you're
at how
wrong.
close it is to the 4 front buttons there, and then it's a little further back, I think.
I think it looks the same to me.
It looks pretty similar.
It's different enough, so you can
I
widen
will
the
say
hole
it's
and
a different thing. So
Let me
go
see,
to,
yeah.
there's got to be another picture.
Yeah,
of
one
that.
of them
find
was
a
an
better picture.
early car that had the suspension buttons on it too, but
That picture there. Yeah, that one. No, that one. Yeah. Okay, now go back to the other one. Go back to the other car. The one difference is this.
that's an early car thing, not a manual.
Oh,
automatic,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. They didn't do that anymore?
They moved where the suspension adjustments were and the lift and everything. So they changed a lot year to year with these cars because it was still a little bit of a sketchy Italian.
Right. At the time, they couldn't afford. Yeah, this was straight out of the Diablo, and
It was.
Yep.
So what is your plan?
My plan is
45 grand, and it's a little.
the engine out one is allegedly going to be like 52. So then you're like, oh, $5,000 more to kind of go a little more thorough with it is probably the move. But my plan is to wait, to let everyone else be guinea pigs, because I feel like you can change it to a manual, fine, but just because it's manual doesn't mean they made it just like OE, right? Does it shift the same way? Does it feel the same way? Is it going to break in 40,000 miles?
I will tell you this, for all the issues that EAG has had, there's a lot of positive reviews about the way those cars drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, it's a little sketchy to do it. EAG or not, it's like a sketchy, like the first dude who converted a major part of your car.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, they need it for a month is what they quote.
But-
and you got to assume it's a little longer.
But while you're waiting, what's his name? The guy who did it? The YouTuber?
Jack.
Jack's going to be driving around.
I know.
clack. And Nick's gonna be, come on, let's go.
It's funny because there's a Mercy owners group on Instagram, awesome group, like so many smart people and like dudes that have P1s. Actually, the biggest crossover are Hummer H1 owners and Viper owners.
Yup.
What a
with the Mercy
surprise!
logos.
I'm truly astonished to hear that.
Yeah.
That Mercy owners
Stereotype all you want, but it's a tremendous wealth of information in there, and like a lot of people are coming and saying, you know what, e-gear's not that bad. Like everyone I mean, maybe it's bias of they all have e-gear cars, so
Right.
of course they're defending it, but like
I agree though with
a
that.
lot of people wax poetically that the e-gear is actually pretty fun.
However, if given the opportunity, I suspect, to just snap their fingers and
Yeah.
suddenly their car's a stick and they throw out 50 grand, I bet they would do it.
I would snap my fingers.
You'd snap your fingers. The question is more, if they had to send it away to Texas, that's going to cost probably 6 grand to ship it there and
Yeah,
back.
no,
right?
it's going to be really expensive, so I'm going to let other people figure it out. If it's as good as I hope it is, like I'm definitely going to do it. Just save up in the meantime.
It would be cool.
It would be
It would
very
be really cool.
All right, next up, we're going to talk market report. Market report brought to you by Cars and Bids. Actually, the Cars and Bids app. Just like Cars and Bids, but an app. I want to talk Bentley Mulsanne. Pull that up, because I almost talked about this and then I didn't, but we should.
That was on my list as well.
Did you see what it sold for?
Yes.
It's $58,000. This car
Yeah.
needed a service. The dealer selling it said it needed a service. God knows what that means. Okay, but for 58, we've always talked about our Najas.
Yeah.
They're like 30.
Yeah.
This is kind of getting there.
And it looks like it rolled off the line yesterday.
Yeah, this is way more desirable
Yes.
than an Arnage. Way more desirable, except for that it has like one of the worst steering wheels of any car ever made. But other than that, it is way more
You
desirable.
still
than an
look
Arnage.
rich.
You
driving
do.
This.
This looks, like you said, like a new car.
You know, I've swapped the steering wheel in my last 5 cars. Murcielago has an aftermarket wheel. My S4 had an aftermarket wheel. My TTRS had an aftermarket wheel. What am I missing? There's
Pull
2
up the
others that
wheel.
had aftermarket wheels.
The wheel is
can't-
bad.
It's
You'd have
really
to do it
easy
on
to
this
change.
car too.
That's fine.
No, it really is not. It was a horrible wheel design. It absolutely was
I would live with that.
embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Look at it. Look at that. It looks like a happy little Honda Civic wheel on your Bentley. Other than that, though, this car, if this car starts to get in the 40s, which it
Yeah.
will,
Man,
that's
it's a
interesting.
lot.
This looks like the kind of car that if you went out to eat, you would order the seafood tower every time and not think twice. Just gobs of money.
In Nick's mind, that's what having
That's
gobs
what
of
having
money
money
is. Ordering the seafood tower and
No,
not
those
thinking
things can
about
be
it.
spendy. You get the clams.
I think that
Crabs.
I've always loved the Mulsanne. I've always
Yeah.
like really thought it was one of the coolest cars.
agree.
It doesn't matter the spec; it looks incredibly baller. I will say I check generally what they're selling for, and later ones are still over 100. Like the car is not 58 generally, but an early car with miles with some needs is a 58 car, and that is appealing.
Part of the reason I like it too is it reminds me so much of the Brooklyns. But
Yeah.
the Brooklyns was what, $400,000 or
And they're
$500,000
still big
car?
money. Yeah. On the subject of stuff that's getting cheap, we were talking last night. Stuff's getting cheap.
Stuff
The
be
market has
getting cheap.
changed. VAWRX. Type in WRX. Check this out. I know, Kenan, this isn't your type of car.
No, it is not.
Scroll down a little bit to that one. This is a 16 WRX, one owner,
Wow.
30,000 miles, no modifications, manual transmission, sold for $18,000.
Wow.
It needed tires. But I'm sitting here thinking, this is a 270 horsepower, manual, fun car.
Fun car, yeah.
Like, this, in my mind, this is a $30,000 car, $35,000 car. That's what they were, and that's what they were like used for a while. It's 18. This is going to be a $15,000 car tomorrow. I mean,
That's a very compelling car for that kind of money.
your stuff is starting to get to a price point where it's starting to become kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. If,
This for 18, and did you see what GT350 sold for the other day?
No.
GT350R. This is something you used to be paying
yeah, I'm
attention
into
to.
those.
Under 50 for an R.
under 50
Wow.
for an R. Now, of course, this one is missing its front lip, so that kind of.
It had
12,300
12,000 miles. It had a couple mods.
But
Go
no
back.
accidents.
Inspected.
It's not an unusual result either. This is what these go for. Go back to the result page. Take a look at this. We sold a regular GT350 for under 40.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I've driven these cars. They are a lot of car for what they were stickered at, which was like 65, 75. To get it for 40, that's like really, really, really appealing.
That is very appealing. I really like these cars.
How come you haven't purchased one?
Because we live in San Diego and I don't want to look like I just spent my first military check with PenFed. that's the reason.
But they're cool.
They're
the thing
cool.
is, it sucks that it has that rep, and I totally agree that it has that rep, but it's actually an amazing car to drive. And I think
is.
even you,
No,
European car...
I
man,
drove one. I did a video on one that we sold on the site, and it was
So good.
so good. That Tremec 6-speed is
Yep.
one of the best feeling transmissions. It's very agile. The Voodoo engine is
Voodoo's great.
insane.
The sound is amazing.
The sound's amazing. The power is incredible. Reliability is a little questionable, admittedly, but that package is
The car is also,
good.
it changes directions so fast.
So
You look at a
fast.
Mustang, you're like, it's a Mustang.
I mean, you talk about not having play on center.
Yeah.
That car,
Precise.
you even breathe on the steering wheel and it just goes the direction you want it to.
It is a really well-designed car.
Kenan, let's make a pact.
Oh,
You
boy.
get one of these, I'll get a Hellcat.
A Hellcat. What?
We'll change the stereotypes together.
Yeah, I'm going to get out wearing a suit.
You fit the Hellcat stereotype.
Yeah.
How?
You're insane.
Look at what
I
you're
own a
wearing.
Maserati. Look, it's an MC20 underneath my.
It's an MC12.
Used car
12. but like most Maserati Quattroporte owners, he doesn't know the
They're
difference
very
between the
similar.
cars. That makes complete sense.
Oh my God.
Okay, I want to move on. We talked a little market report. I want to move on to questions. Questions. There's a few good questions. And remember, you too can ask us a question. You go to carsandbids.com, you click on the community link at the top, and we will have a post that says, hey, ask us a question. And you can ask us a question.
Okay.
This week, there are some really shockingly good questions. The first one is from Sergio Mendez. What is the very best exotic car you can get for around $150,000? Looking for something that stands out more than a 911. This is like the most common topic in our
Friend group. That is
for
so
150.
true.
anything.
That stands out more than a 911. 911's the most.
Well, that's his
ignorable car.
point. So give him
Yeah.
something. I know what I would say.
What I would get would be a Gallardo and have a little money left over.
Yeah, Nick wants a little money left over.
Okay, 85. You got a lot of money left over,
No,
dude.
I get
Gallardo,
a, I
we
get
can
a
still get
stick
the
for
Gallardo,
like,
too.
low 100s.
You'd get a Gallardo.
Yeah.
Okay, stick Gallardo. That's all right. That's not as good as mine, Kenan.
The ones that come to mind immediately, Ferrari 550 is in that range. Z8 is also in that range.
Z8s are in that range.
I think
Isn't
you
that
probably
wild?
could get a mild Gallardo Superleggera. That would be one I would jump on in a heartbeat.
That's right.
I mean, there's some really good
Kenan put
cars.
some more thought into this. Nick's driving around in a Gallardo. He's out here in a Superleggera Z8.
you've an 04.
However, the answer to the question is the Ferrari 599 GTB Ferrano.
Buy that for 150?
You can buy that for 125.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
That-
Actually, buy it for 125 and then you can swap it and be in at 150.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of,
Ish.
but yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, but that is I mean, 612 horsepower. Enzo
Enzo
drive
engine,
V12.
600 horse, looks like a crazy thing. You want to stand out more than a 911, Sergio Mendez? Boom! You just stand out more. We sell some 599s.
Oh, we've sold a couple 599s. This is
That was a gated conversion. But
Yeah.
go back to
Look at those buttresses.
This car had 0 miles.
It had,
That
it was
the
a
weird thing
weird
about it.
circumstance.
This is a gated conversion that
Yeah.
was bid to 137. We sold after for a little bit more.
These
Yeah.
questions are always hard because it's like, well, what do you want from the car? Do you want to stand out? Do you want to drive it? Do you want to take it to the
Do you
track?
want to stand out? 599. You want to drive it? 599. You
Well,
want to take it to
that-
the track?
this one-
599.
This one was also really appealing because it was an HGTE car.
Yeah.
In addition to being a 6-speed, that was like the high performance pack
those
handling
wheelios.
package they offered. Yeah, I'd paint them back to silver. But other than that,
Yeah, of course. You paint the wheels.
look at those seats. Oh,
Handling GTE.
Solid.
What an embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
It's
so cool, but
Italians
Yeah.
just don't understand. They never will understand that some things are beautiful and some things aren't. They just don't quite get what's what. It just doesn't. They don't get it.
The owner of this car is also in the Murcielago owners
Really?
group. Yes,
The
Christian.
person who bought it from the
No,
site?
that sold it.
That sold it.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's a good question, and that is, of course, the answer 599. No, your answers were good too. Z8 is in that range. People don't realize.
Yeah, I mean, they went way up, but they have come way down. And there are ones out there with miles on them you can get for even less. We've sold a number of Z8s that were less than 150. 135 for this one.
That one had
was
miles,
sold-
right?
Yeah, I think this one had like 50,000 miles.
But that's kind of where you want to buy it. We all know an S62 is only broken in at 60,000.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, most of these
Dude,
cars.
135, that car is such a deal at 135.
I
That is
totally
such an
agree.
exotic car. You drive that thing around, you turn people's heads all day long for the price of a used 911. You can't get a new 911 for this
I
anymore.
know. Well, all the answers we chose, way more
Yeah.
exciting than a 911.
I would get all of them.
You could also start to stretch into a Diablo or Murcielago, if you spent just a little bit more.
Yeah, but you'd have to
Your-
spend a little
Your
bit
maintenance costs also then start to really get
been
scary.
fine.
But
My Murcielago starts every 4th or 5th try. Without
right, and
exception.
that's a nice one.
Yes.
more. All right, here's a question from Chicago C. and Debuser. Nick, this one's for you.
All
Had
right.
a minor accident in a 720S.
Ooh.
Bumper damage, skid plate and wheel replacement, accident 25 miles an hour, barely any damage. McLaren assessed repairs at $45,000. What would you do? Go through insurance and take a hit at higher rates, given I have 6 other cars insured them, or pay cash and try to resell the car? How much would the car lose in value? Completely new to exotic car crashes. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
Especially that number and that car. If it was a $100,000 repair, you go through insurance.
Yeah.
If it's a $10,000 repair, you pay out of pocket. I mean, obvious. 45 on a 720S is a little bit like...
It's a lot of money.
I suspect, though, he said that quote was from McLaren.
Oh, boy.
And there are a lot of good body shops, and there are a lot of wrecked 720Ss. You could find a used bumper. I bet you could do that repair for closer to 10 to 15.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point.
Maybe
if
throw
you want
some
to do it
HREs
right
on it.
and insurance is paying for it, obviously you would go to McLaren. But that's kind of part of this question.
I watch dudes rebuild 720Ss in their garage on YouTube, all right? Like, that sounds like something we could do with a couple of cold ones.
You talking about Freddie?
Freddie's one example.
I got a Freddie story
This was a 675, a very rare car.
I'm going to tell us in the pod, why not? I got a Freddie story for you.
All
Freddie
right.
calls me yesterday, and I'm filming, so I didn't answer. And so I ignore the call, and it goes voicemail. And I don't do calls. Like, I'm on set a lot. I can't take a call most of the time. And also just like text me. So I text Freddie after he calls me instead of calling him back. And I say, Freddie, to what do I owe this wonderful surprise, And he goes, Doug, how many users does Cars and Bids have? Now, if you go to the carsandbids.com main page and just scroll to the bottom, it actually shows how many users Cars and Bids has right there. So I screenshotted that and I sent it to him. And I said, I guess we have 600,000. I don't know when the last time that was updated is. I don't really care. But I said, look, about 600,000. And then that was it. He didn't even reply.
Great story.
He wanted to call me to ask me a question you could ask over text, and then he didn't even reply when I'd answer the question for him. And that's a day with Freddie.
I wonder what's going on there to need to know that information.
And you know what? I've learned with Freddie, you don't ask.
Can you
You just let it be.
You know how there was that big sale recently of that junkyard
Yeah.
in LA?
Freddie Klein.
Can you do that with Freddie? He's got 4 warehouses full of cars. It's a problem. You need to have a YouTuber intervention and say, you are hoarding cars, and we're going to have you sell 20 of them.
You got no idea.
The Freddie collection.
You got no idea how many times. So we would try to collab. We would call guys, other YouTubers who will remain nameless, but well-known ones, and we'd be like, hey, will you sell a car on a site? On the site, we'll pay you X number, and you'll promote it. I mean, that's like the most common collab. And they're like, we don't sell cars. Like I've owned 46 cars, and I still own all 46, and I don't sell them ever. Like they mean too much to me. And I'm thinking to myself,
you're not Jay Leno.
All 46 mean too much to you? Like many car YouTubers told us that.
Yeah.
So Freddie's not even. Anyway, back to the McLaren. I don't know what I would do. I would probably try to find a cheaper alternative than the McLaren dealership body shop.
Which is pretty much anywhere.
And I probably would pay out of pocket. That's the drawback of having an exotic car. Like at the end of the day, realistically, the hit on value is huge. On a 720S, that car's already dipped a lot in value. A lot of them have been hit, to be totally honest, or modded in some crazy way that is like an accident.
And you will find
that is equally as big of a disaster.
Having bought a lot of cars that have no accidents on the Carfax, and then you take it to someone like our friend Kevin, and he's like, oh, there's paintwork over here. This isn't uncommon.
My Acura GT's got paintwork. I mean, a lot of cars over time have had paintwork.
Well, it's pretty reasonable to expect that as a car ages when they get old.
Totally.
I mean, it's like, but a 720S in particular,
frankly, he might have better paintwork if he goes outside of McLaren.
No, but I think if I could do that work for 20, I would probably self-pay and sell the car. If I had to do it for 45, I would probably go through insurance. It's 45 grand. It's too much money. You're not gonna lose 45 grand. The goal would be to try to document. He says barely any damage, just skid plate, bumper, and wheel. If you can document the hell out of that, you might be able to instill some confidence when you sell the car that it wasn't that bad of an accident.
We've certainly seen that when people bring cars to us. It's like, I've had the damage repaired. Here's what
here are
the
photos
pictures of the accident.
Here are the photos during the repair. Here's the estimate.
We put them in the other section so people can see exactly what the car looks like, and that provides a lot of peace of mind.
Especially because when it's on our site, that'll follow. Like, Google the VIN, that'll follow the car forever.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know. It's a tough call, but I think it depends on price, and of course you can also always pursue a diminished value claim, but those can be costly to pursue, and they might not go the way that you're hoping after paying an attorney to try to.
And just the time also invested into that is substantial. So.
Yeah. He also doesn't mention who's at fault in the accident, which I think has a little bit of. It's slightly important, not incredibly important, but it is slightly important.
Yeah, but that's a hard one. But sorry, you have to go through that.
Last question. This is from AHM9D. Doug has made several videos about how he was a great car spotter back in the day, before it was a popular thing to do. Damn right. Nowadays, people with exotic cars are probably used to people taking pictures of cars, but I was wondering, what were the interactions like back then? Were people ever defensive or weirded out if they saw you taking pictures of their cars? Any particularly weird or strange encounters, or were people mostly kind and understanding? I made it a goal when I did this to like not be seen. I didn't even like to talk to the owners of the cars. To me, it was always about the car. And so like if the owner would even say something to me, I would like try to like shy away. And I didn't care. Like okay, a dude's driving. I did a lot of this in Atlanta too. A dude's driving a Mercy in Atlanta, in period. That's not a guy I'm interested in having a convo with. Like, I'm good. I just want to get a picture of the car, right? And so it very rarely did I ever really interact with the owners in any reasonable or meaningful way by choice. But it was an interesting hobby at the time. Really not that many people were doing it.
MC12 guy would have been good to talk to, though.
Yeah.
Who the heck was that guy? I have to say, I mean, I grew up in a pretty affluent town that had a lot of exotic cars in the Midwest. Where they move, they depreciate. We had some real stuff though in my town. Like the guy bought a Carrera GT brand new, like, and that was I saw it regularly. He'd drive it to BP to get cigarettes. I mean, I saw like real cars, and so I would do a similar thing. And I actually ended up talking to a lot of the owners because I'm me, and became like friends with a lot of them, and still keep in touch. Tim Cantwell is a good example. He's a very well known in the Ford GT forums, but he had. You'd love the cars that he had. So he had 430 Scuderia, 360 Challenge Raleigh, Garda Superleggera, first gen. Had a
Lightweights only.
he had a Diablo VT Roadster. I mean, he had and then 5 Ford GTs, Viper, like Voodoo Viper, like all the cars that you would like freak out over. And he just was the nicest guy. Like, and
Some of them
sometimes
are.
they are, but I agree. In Atlanta, a Mercy on wheels. Not, rims, not what he
Some of
necessarily
them
want to talk
are
to.
nice. I just have often found that I don't love chatting with rich people. I think it often goes in a direction
You
I
can
don't
usually
like it to
tell
go.
by the car.
Yeah.
If it's something really obscure or rare or special, it's going to be a different caliber than just like, this is the newest, most expensive thing.
Yeah, that's true. And I would never want to walk up to somebody in a newest, most expensive thing type of car. SF90 drivers, I'm all set. Thanks so much. But if it's something, if it's like a real enthusiast car, that's a different conversation.
It's funny how the culture has changed from I wouldn't want to bother the owner, I don't want to be seen, to Daniel Mack coming up, hey, what's your job? How much money do you make? And that being totally normalized. Like people will answer that.
Yeah, but it's Daniel Mack.
No, I think he's great. I'm just saying like
We got to let him do his thing. He's a
doesn't
national treasure.
It barely strikes us as weird anymore versus think 20 years ago if you did that, like people would be pissed.
Yeah, it would be weird.
It must
Social-
happen to you a lot in the Mercy, I would think. That car gets a ton of attention.
It does. Yeah, people don't really ask like what I guess a little bit of what you do, definitely not like how much money do you have.
Social media has definitely expanded the likelihood
Yeah.
that people are going to come up, be taking pictures, et cetera. The Countach is wild. Like you straight up can't drive the car.
Yeah.
You can't stop the car. If I park that car anywhere, like I took a couple pictures of it yesterday in front of like the bay with palm trees. Like 2 seconds you park and like 9 people are swarming you instantly, and then that begets more people, and you're just like you moved there. You're living by the parking lot by the bay now.
Great view, anyway.
All right. Well, those are our things to talk about. That was our podcast today. Nick, thanks so much for coming out. You want to put on your costume and give us some?
I think that was our best one ever.
It was our best one ever. Do you want to give us some wise words?
Ooh, wise words. Buy cars. They are so much fun. You know what? Actually, the wisdom I just turned 40. So the wisdom related to cars that I had, I spent my first 15 years of cars only driving Audis and thinking I was like this Audi fanboy, and like that was a mistake. I should have had more variety. But the other thing is I would buy a car, I'd hang on to it for 4 or 5 years and like just like hold. And now I've like been unhinged and just like it's like a car for 3 to 6 months, like just buy and sell. Like I just thought there was like it was so hard to switch cars and it would be like all this work, and it's really not anymore. Maybe that's the advent of the internet and everything, but like I regret holding cars for that long, and instead, like I don't want to be that guy with 46 cars. I want to be the guy that's owned
Cycling
46
through.
cars, but I don't want to have to maintain them. That
I agree
sounds
completely
awful.
with that. That has always been my ethos, both of those things. I'm glad it took you until age 40 to come around
Well,
to where
I don't
always
listen to your advice.
been. No, you don't. Or anything else.
Or anything else. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nick. You're crazy. Rent some cars on Turo. Check out Turo down below in the link to my Turo favorites. And remember, Nick is crazy. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.